Hey, aloha, and welcome to today's office hours. Just getting things started here. I was actually just at KNF support answering some questions to folks and getting all the questions that I received over the week from email and to follow up from last week's session that some comments got left in there. So just organizing those before I got started, but want to welcome you here today. Just getting into things, and as per usual, I think it's a good thing to kind of start center ourselves by reading a bit of inspirational knowledge. So I'm gonna pull up this here from the I Ching, which is one of my, like I say, is one of my favorite books here. And looks like we've already got a bunch of comments in the YouTube stream here, and happy that you guys are tuning in. Happy to connect with you. But want to start with the I Ching, and today's hexagram is number 31, which is lake over mountain, and it's influence or wooing. And it says, "In influence comes good fortune to those whose hearts are correct." So the hexagram Hisen indicates the coming of an influence. This may take the form of a teaching from the sage, in interaction with another, or a disturbing or pleasing event. In any case, there is good fortune if you meet the influence with proper thoughts and actions. It is a good time to remember that like attracts like. If one gives expression to higher things, then one is surrounded by higher things. If one indulges in what is inferior, then one can expect to have the company of inferiors. Therefore, it is wise to cling steadily to humility, independence, gentleness, and openness. With others, keep an open heart, free of desire, condemning no one, enjoying affinities while retaining your equanimity. With the sage, keep a clear connection, seek resolutely to serve as a conduit for truth and innocent good er, serve as a conduit for truth and innocence and goodness. If the influence is challenging, persevere in correctness. If it is pleasing, also persevere in correctness. Maintaining your devotion to higher things ensures success in the coming time. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. Me putting energy towards Korean natural farming, I feel like it really has attracted likeness. Really trying to just put my, the heart in the right place, be doing the right things. When I started this office hour a couple months ago, maybe it's just a month ago, I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. And I just wanted to, I realized, I stepped off social media almost entirely in the beginning of 2021. And I deleted my Facebook account, which, I had thousands of friends there, and really just didn't want to feed the beast of how the thing tracks you and all the things that they're doing, and kind of got a little bit, I don't know, like antisocial in terms of what I was doing. But I realized when I did that, I cut myself off from this community, and still kept my YouTube, which is great, continues to grow. There's so much good information there. And always on my YouTube, I've been focused just, on Korean natural farming. You go look at my channel, find all the videos. It's always been just, what I see when I'm in Korea, sharing lectures, sharing information. But the Facebook was a little bit more personal. Had some people get upset with certain things, certain viewpoints that I hold. And, I just didn't want to have that exposure out there, especially as, seems like they're moving more towards social credit scores and all that. But enough of that. You didn't really tune in for that here. Maybe you did. I mean, but let's let's dive into some questions here. And yeah, blessing you guys up with happy Sunday. See someone in the comments saying that. But first, wanted to dive in with some questions from last week. And so here we got a question from Super Life. And they were saying, did you answer the question from 2 weeks ago about IMO4 being able to break down lipids and if it can be used as a soap or degreaser? Now, this is a great question. IMOs are exceptionally good at digesting organic compounds. A classic story I like to tell is my friend, he actually just lives up the road now. He just moved in. Richard, was that he was bringing diesel home in the back of his truck and it spilled and he got diesel everywhere. And he was like, but as a farmer, he was too busy to clean it up right away. So he just left it. Next week, he was transporting, and the back of his truck was all oily, all greasy. When you spill diesel, it's kind of hard to get rid of substance. And then the next week he was bringing home a bag of IMOs, transporting those. I think he purchased them when we used to have an IMO machine here in Hawaii. And then those spilled because he lives up this super bumpy road. And he was like, oh man. And he didn't clean that up either. And about a week later, he walked in the back of his truck bed and it wasn't even slick. The IMOs had eaten up all this oil. So if when they spill oil in the water, they put in microbial inoculants. Sometimes they just use the enzymes that microbes make, which can be a very dangerous thing because what happens is when oil, they look at it as a food source. So these different lipids, these different fats, these different oils, these different compounds, microbes look at them as a food source and they go nuts. And so when they go nuts, they can eat up other things that are important in the ecosystem, such as, oxygen and those things that other animals need. And so it can create these kind of overreaction kind of dead zones. So, but anytime I'm working on my tractor, I spill oils, just throw down some LAB. I also use lactic acid bacteria in my laundry. It's another great microbe to help break down these compounds. And I think this question stems from some folks when they make fish amino acid, or as I call it, KNF Fuel, because it kicks up things like fuel in your plants, really accelerates their growth, which can be dangerous if you add too much fuel, you can overgrow. But during the fish amino acid recipe, they add in IMO4 to the recipe, but it can break down these fats and oils, which also have different things in your IMO4. And I recommend that you don't do that. And if you ever have any stink, just throw in a bit of more sugar or submerge the fish. So can IMO break down lipids and fats and used as a degreaser? I would think so, especially if you can sprinkle that dry powder on there. Seems to work great. So it's great. So next question here from Eyewitness is would you need to boil the cow bones if the buzzards have picked them dry and they have sat for a long period of time? And so this relates to KNF Structure. Also, some people call it water-soluble calcium phosphate. And that's where you're taking cow bones or any kind of animal, land-bearing, heavy, strong bones, not like chicken bones, which just snap and break, but heavy bones. And you want to remove the fats and the oils off them. So again, like I was just talking, maybe just taking them, sprinkling a bit of IMO4 on them, letting those eat the lipids and all those things off. Or just leaving them where the buzzards pick them dry. Sometimes I just find bones laying on the ground that are just white and weathered, and they're not fat and oily. Another thing that my wife Suze does is she takes the bones and boils them to make a broth, but she doesn't add vinegar in the bone broth. and what you're doing is removing those. So if your bones are in that condition where they're not oily, like if you put it in water and boil them, and you're not going to get an oily, congealed, like bone brothy type thing, you're just going to be boiling bones. There's no need to boil them. Most often what I do is I'll take the bones and throw them into my chicken pen and just let the chickens pick through them. Little maggots come, they get a little extra protein from the air. It's great as long as I'm not picking up pests, bringing in mongoose or predators from the rotting flesh. So no need to burn or boil already dried, weathered, picked by the buzzard bones. So next question here. I've heard that, this is Joe saying that I've heard that sugarcane grown conventionally is loaded with fungicides. Should I use organic brown sugar for the IMO2 and ferments? The other thing besides fungicides is typically sugar commercially grown, they spray Roundup on it right before, like 10 days before harvest. And this stresses out the plant and causes it to aggregate more sugar. And then that's entering the food supply. So you wonder why people have irritable bowel syndrome and why they have all these internal problems. Roundup is a microbial side. It's used as a descaler. It pulls out all these heavy, plaques and minerals. It strips minerals from everything. So try to use organic sugar if you can. Sometimes the organic sugar that I buy here is really granular, and that can cause problems because the brown sugar I buy is very finely ground. And so if you are getting organic sugar and it's very granular, try to crush it up first. I throw it in the blender and blend it to make it almost like a powdered sugar, because sometimes it cannot super saturate and get right against the rice. And the whole idea for adding the sugar is to suck the moisture out and to tie all that moisture up. And if it's a granular, you can't get it right against your material. And same goes for me when you're making KNF food. Try to use organic solutions, as much as you can. Be careful because conventional organic is not much different than conventional. So just because it has an organic label on it does not mean that it's, healthy or good for you. I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble. You really got to look at the farming practices. What is healthy? Those are microbial balance things. Those are things that build up our soil. Those are things that don't pollute our environment. And you got to think just beyond your inputs and what you're doing. You got to think about the next 7 generations and what are the practices that are happening today affecting our whole ecosystem. Because if I get something that's organic for me, but it polluted someplace else, even though it was organic, it's like, are we moving forward or backward? And I tend to think that, what to me is the best is local produced. And if I'm not saying that you can grow sugar everywhere. So that's why here at the KNF Farm, which you can come here, visit us, visit knffarm.com, come for trainings. That's the number 1 crop I'm growing is sugarcane. Well, actually bananas, but bananas and sugarcane, because eventually I want to have pure KNF 100% through, where the sugar that was grown was with KNF. Now you're fermenting to make KNF. Now the plants you're growing, the whole cycle from start to finish is pure KNF. So yes, get the best high quality sources you can. That's not always possible. The other thing I'd say is, use what you can. If you only have white sugar, use that. If you can't get brown sugar, that's fine. Just let nothing stop you from growing, and let nothing stop you from healing the earth, making your place better, doing all these things. Next 2 things are some interesting comments. Valerie Fletcher was saying sap from the Meristems is the foundation of youth for plants. And I think this comment came last week when I was talking about grabbing the plant tips to make the KNF food. And it's true. The meristem, this growing vital part of hormones and enzymes, is the life. That's why KNF food, fermented plant juice, is untouched in terms of how effective it is. If you're using conventional NPK-based fertilizer, you're using these other things, They don't have the growth hormones, the enzymes, the plant assembled chemicals that are just perfect for the plants, the things that go right into it. And you can't get this through other synthetic chemistry. And that's why KNF is just off the hook. I really encourage people to get a PhD, become a doctor in KNF and understand, like, study this, get it into the scientific literature, because a lot of times KNF is poo-pooed because we don't have the scientific literature, which is absolutely not true. There is papers. In fact, University of Hawaii just brought out a paper this past week they published, which talks about how KNF outperformed organic, outperformed conventional, brought the life, the bacteria, the goodness back to the soils. And so there is more and more documentation. So this, the lifeblood is the meristem. Go get a PhD on this, prove it, show it, help it grow in that realm. Other comment she had was that she's more interested in the female hormone regulating. And this is something I'd love to maybe have Suze in on the office hour. She's been talking a little bit about urine, how these hormone therapies happen, female hormone regulation, but also these fermented plant juices, these KNF foods. If you want to get the best intact hormones, you want to get the best health food for yourself, maybe don't go to the supplement store. Go to your yard, harvest the weeds that are growing, look up your ancient indigenous knowledge that talks about what hormones are great for what, add a little sugar, ferment it, and then super saturate it, and now you got the best medicine. If you look behind me, you see these jars here. What are those? Those are all kinds of ferments that and IMO1 too, that I drink all the time. They're right there. Why? Because I fill up some water, then I pour some in and I drink that. And so these are where it's at. And then the last comment that Valerie had was talking about stinging nettle is great, just use protection. And this is a comment that I wanted to bring up because it is true. Not everything is good, but if through the fermentation process, it can neutralize a lot of these hormones, things that would cause trouble in there. Okay, and then she has one last question, Valerie was on here a lot, but she has a question about the bromelain in pineapples, and do we need add the stem for FAA to break it up? If you're looking for a bromelain to break down your FAA quicker, which I think is the active compound in the papayas that I was talking about, you can just take pineapple skins, which I think you can buy pineapples all around the world. They come from Dole in the Philippines, and that itself is a gnarly thing. Talk about crazy agriculture. But take those skins, the ones you're not going to eat after you've cut your pineapple up, throw a bit of that in your FAA. It'll speed it up. Not a whole lot, but you don't want to increase the moisture content too much, but a compound like that will really help to speed things up. So I'm going to try and move through things a little bit quicker because I know there's some live comments here and want to get to you guys. And I don't want to spend all day on last week's questions. I know I answer these things thoroughly, but I think folks enjoy that. Been getting good feedback on that. A classic thing on YouTube is to trick you guys into putting comments below to make the algorithm rise. But if you do like the format, let me know if you want me to speed it up, whatever. But Jacob was saying here, he heard about algae that can protect your plants from powdery mildew, bud rot, and pests in one treatment after rooting. I'd like me to look into it. The other thing that I always talk about for those similar problems, the powdery mildew, the bud rot, and pest, is the KNF Protectors, the lactic acid bacteria. Those are, if you're applying it early and often, meaning like weekly or semi-weekly, it's where it's at. You can get some sort of algae if you're near the ocean. Like I was saying, think about the external cost of shipping things around. Sure, I'll look into it, but personally, man, the LAB is where it's at for me. That's what I use. Then one more comment by Valerie. I think she was looking for a hard copy of this book. Right now, I'm not selling hard copies, but I do have them available right here at, let's see, KNF support. So if you go to knfsupport.com, then you click right here on this thing. You can download this book and get it ebook direct to you. If you do want a hard copy, I may do that, but problem for me is like shipping it, getting it out on time, printing the copies. But I may do that for the holiday season coming up. I know it's something that folks would love to receive under the Christmas tree instead of just a book, that you get that you have to read on your tablet or phone. Nothing like having the hard copy where you can just look and as you're in the field, pull up the recipes. This is actually a little bit older edition, and that's one reason I also do the ebook, is you can get the most up-to-date version right here. Yeah, so let's see here. Where are comments? Too many screens open. So let's see. Let me jump into a few live questions here, and then I'll get back to some of the other ones I got. So, all right. Hey, Mark's on the stream. Shout out from Santa Cruz. Hopefully that rain was good for you guys. Looking forward to seeing you again, man. Been building plenty of stuff on the farm. And farmer in SoCal and Riverside. What's up, guys? Love California. Hope to be doing a Aloha tour this spring. Things may be in the making. I am gonna be up in America, Seattle region, around the end of May. So we'll see if I can get those things going on. Little preview for you guys. And so, yeah, the same question on the fungicide came back here. Great. Thanks for reposting the question in. Hopefully that answered your question, Joe. All right. So what's up, KNF Farm? Yeah, what's up? Hey, speaking of KNF Farm, one thing I did, I just updated the website a little bit. So let me switch this over here to the screen. And I just updated the website just a little bit. The 2 trainings are still up. I'm probably going to add some more coming up here. Been trying to make it more available. Been trying to get it into my flow so that I can do these on a monthly basis. We'll see if I can do that. But I just want to show you guys a little bit. I just updated this page yesterday, and I put a little bit about our farm, giving you a little bit more context, trying to build out this website. I think, prior to this, I had the social media. I had folks just knew what was up, what was going on, and people signing up without much info, which I appreciate that faith, and I appreciate you taking the gamble to come out here, and the payouts and the rewards were just off the hook. If you want to put some testimony out, share, the good word, what you learned here, it's great. But I put up this thing here of the origins, when I went to Korea, got inspired. But I also put up this video here, the KNF Farm experience of my buddy Tyler came out, and he shot this footage. It wasn't a class when he was here, so the video that we put here doesn't show much of the footage of the course, but it does show a lot of the facilities, the beauty, what you get. If you're going to take a vacation to Hawaii, why not come here, stay with us, get the whole KNF Farm experience, be integrated in with us, and, instead of just staying at some random Airbnb, we got the most beautiful cottages available. I mean, look, this is our kitchen. Look at that pineapple there. All kinds of just wonderful things. But watch that video. It's a short little, I think, 2-minute video. Shows you kind of what you can expect from their little thing here, and want to just inspire folks. And I'll be continuing to kind of add more information to the KNF Farm website. And I just want to go, while I'm on this, go a little bit here about the trainings and just telling you what do you get. I do complete 7-day immersion intensive course. And we do level 1, meaning how you use KNF. Level 2, how to make the solutions, evaluate them, go step by step through everything, get your taste, your tongue. Like last week I was explaining how calcium has different effects on your tongue, how to know when you're correct. And you get an instructor certification, which teaches you how to teach. And it's how to do a KNF class, but also how to teach. There's a lot to it. No, it's not just like sitting in front of people with a PowerPoint. There's a lot about how to connect to your audience, how to get them into the thing, and you can read these details here. Also, one of the best things at my farm is our livestock fundamentals. We're at my barn, we got the pigs, we got the chickens, we got everything there. And so you get to get hands-on experience with the livestock, which to me, starting with chickens, getting into pigs, it's really how you get into KNF. It's all about the animals. They are the key to regenerating society, bringing them into our ecosystem. Even if you're vegan and you're not going to eat them, putting them to work for you so that you're having this loving relationship, so that they're creating your microbes and you're feeding them and they're breaking down your compost and all this. It's just amazing. So, and then also you get to, work on the farm. So if you're thinking of getting into this, you're not a farmer yet, get a taste of it. What is it like? Get your hands dirty, get some blisters on you, throw some IMOs on the land, spray things, see what equipment we have here. It's those types of things that are going to take you light years ahead when you do start your farm. And if you're already farming, check out what we do. This is a living, working, operational farm. So again, the opportunities are here to check it out, and look forward to sharing with you that way. Jump back to these questions here a little bit. And we got here someone from Santa Rosa. If you're up there, check out Evan Sharp. And I think he's on Instagram for sure. He's a great guy. He's been doing KNF. Yeah. So difficult to pay for your books here in Tanzania. Please advise any other mode of payment. I may hook you up with like a coupon if you're having trouble paying. When I get money for the book, it helps me develop my farm. I don't want to just give it away free, because folks also, when you pay for the book, you value it. But if you're unable to get access to this, I got a bunch of free resources. I can get ways to get you the book. I don't know. I really detest Venmo. It's PayPal. Those guys are kind of, they're onto some weird things. The payment platforms, we'll see. I don't know. I'll see if I can work with you, James, see how I can get you the things. So next comment here, there may be more things coming from the natural farming community, from the Microbial Secret Society. I can't get enough. I stopped doing the Microbial Secret Society because it's a lot to do a podcast. Even these office hours, you see me here for an hour. It takes me, an hour of prep time ahead, and it takes me about 3 to 4 hours of after the process work to do these things. So it's one of the reasons I quit the Microbial Secret Society. I initially started it with David, and we were doing a weekly thing, but the relationship between us of just balancing the workload, him having a child, moving, buying his own home, me with my workload here, I apologize that I'm not putting out the Secret Society as much as I should. I love that project. I may port some of this over to it and just take the audio from this and put it into the Secret Society. But the whole thing was inspired by the Higher Side Chats with Greg Carlwood. If you haven't checked that out, definitely do. It's the best podcast, in my opinion, out there, besides maybe Joe Rogan. And the $8 a month for the second hour thing was starting to build a revenue stream for me, help me do more of my farming by putting those out there. But I felt like when I was charging folks money for it on a regular basis, I had all this stress to continually put out the content, and it just ate me into the ground. And was more than I could handle to put out on a weekly basis. So hopefully I can get some of that going, get those things out there, but it's a challenge to do. There's, all the YouTubers that are out there that put out weekly content, they're it's not as easy as you think. And, so if you can go into the super chat, put some money towards it, help me out. And it's not, I'm not like wanting just like, quid pro quo, like money. It's about gathering with your, the right hearts, the right minds, the right reasons, the right things, like the I Ching said. Even, I've done this for free for years. I'll continue to put stuff out for free. It's for you guys. It's when I see the successes. It's when people email me and I see, folks around the world. I've been helping a guy here locally who has a farm in the Philippines. And it's when I go to visit him on a weekly basis and he tells me, Dr. Drake, you've changed my operation. Where I used to have chickens dying off, and now he's getting into goats, and he had, he just transported his goats from a different province, I don't know if you can drive thousands of miles in the Philippines. It's not that huge, but way away, transported these goats. They were in a truck for 5 days. And when they got there, they were hurting. But what did he do? He put the KNF Protectors and the KNF medicine into their water. And within a few days, even hours, his goats were back. They recovered. His neighbor who got the same goats in the same delivery, it took him over a month to recover. They're still not back to normal. And so it's these kinds of things. It's these tips. It's this knowledge, this wisdom, this getting it to people who are in destitute situations, getting it to people, even first world people who want to eat better, who want to be healthy, who want to save the climate, who want to, all these, clean the ocean, all these benefits that KNF gives you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm delivering it. And if I do get money, then heck, it helps me stay alive. It helps me keep my property. It helps, all these things. And so however, whatever, the more we can have this exchange, the better off we are. I don't want to rant too much on this. I want to get back to some questions here. Eyewitnesses talking about the social media and getting off it and been off it for years. Highly recommend you get off Facebook, except for maybe for me, I just created an account that only goes to the Korean Natural Farming Group because there's too much that feed. It's mind control. It started to just drive me down this thing of where I'd get upset and then I'd put out certain information, but it would only share with people that are already into that information, like central banking and all these things that are just if you don't know about that, research it. Research 9/11, research these things where it's not to say go be some crazy conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of truth out there that the mainstream, the censorship, these things, they just don't even allow a voice to enter. So I don't want to go too much on that tangent and turn YouTube into my Facebook and get a bunch of, crazy stuff here. I really want to keep it strict to KNF, but get out of the Facebook feed, get into the KNF group and other groups that can inspire you. If you want to go really out there, I'm into some Tartarian groups that, and one guy on the internet, John Levi, check out his YouTube channel. It'll bend your mind. Whether it's true or not, I don't care. But to understand that there's different points of view and to hold these points of view without judging them, without getting into the, getting so defensive and fighting and hostile. That's why I got off Facebook and I've never done Twitter. And in my Instagram, I used to just put out things, but it was mostly the herbal community that was tuned in, which it's great. I love you guys, but Instagram's terms of service are crazy. So again, said I wasn't going to rant about this here. I am ranting about it, but these questions, these things, going out there. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh man, how did this thing scroll so fast? I wish this scrolling thing was better here. So, okay. So I'm not sure where I lost my spot in the chat because I scrolled it, but okay. So here, Let's see. I've had a hard time. So Dami 2001 is saying, I've had a hard time to understand how to work with the nutritive cycle with my 1-year-old hazelnut orchard. Hazelnuts are wind pollinated. How would you go improving the pollination with KNF? So, number one thing I would do to improve pollination is get a beehive, right? You know, bees are the natural pollinators. Whatever you think are the pollinators, get those animals involved. Number two is right before, about 2 weeks before these plants are going to go into your flowering, before they emit flowers. This is called the changeover period. I also call it the puberty period. And if this time you can get out there and you can spray them all with KNF Structure, which is the water-soluble calcium phosphate, and you can spray that, your plants will hold more flowers on if they usually drop them, and they will they'll what do you call like it'll help it go through that puberty phase. The hardest thing is going from a juvenile to an adult, and that's the puberty phase. And that is like where, you know, like kids and humans, you get acne, you get all this, and your hormones go crazy. You know, you have these huge growth spurts, which for me, when I was a kid growing so fast, I had problems with my knees because I grew so fast. That is just a very hard time. So if you want that pollination to happen better, the calcium phosphate, it'll also help your flowers to become more fragrant, because calcium helps the nutrients move. That phosphate helps the flowers become strong. It also gives the roots a boost during that phase, and that's the most important to get that transition to help going over. So in the hazelnut orchard, you know, what can help you the best is the KNF Structure. Of course, you don't want to just go out spraying one thing at a time. You want to mix that. You know, you want to take, in KNF Structure is in the maintenance formula. So what is it? It's 1 to 500 of some kind of KNF food. And in that case, when you're in that transition phase, you should probably make the KNF food from unripe fruits, from fallen hazelnuts from last year, those types of things. So 1 to 500 KNF food. Number two is KNF Cleanser, which is a vinegar, typically made apple cider vinegar. I make banana vinegar, or in Korea, they make it from brown rice vinegar. All of those are great. So 1 to 500, the cleanser. 1 to 1,000 KNF medicine, which is your oriental herbal nutrient. And because those are so potent herbs, putting 1 to 1,000 of the KNF medicine out there really helps to ensure that reproductive process goes smooth, but also just helps boost the general immune system of your plants. And the fourth component of it is KNF Structure, because you're always wanting to boost your roots. Everything, calcium helps things move, and you know, the phosphates and those things really help to provide robust plants. It's one of the NPKs, phosphorus, and this is water soluble, so you're getting that directly into your plant. So if that can help you, spray that during the transition period, especially with the unripe fruits in your as your KNF food, and I think it's going to help you a lot. Understanding the maintenance, understanding the nutrient cycle is one of the most difficult things. I hope to cover that more. I don't have the paper in front of me that has it kind of broken down really easily, but I'll cover that maybe next week here in detail. So Healing Earth Remediations is saying, I believe I made a mistake with my pig pen. I didn't do a first layer of 6 inches of biochar. I did a light dusting of biochar in the top 2-foot layer of logs. Then I did a large layer. Then I did my layer of wood chips. Let me tell you, I did not do the biochar in my pig pen either. You don't need a 6 inches of biochar on the bottom. You do need some biochar, and when I say need, it is extremely helpful to mix some biochar into the top layer of wood chips. You know, for my pen, which is a sorry to use feet here because it's a global audience, but It is a 12 by 14 pig pen. I mixed about a 5-gallon bucket of biochar into that material. And each time I add more wood chips, I try to add a 5-gallon bucket of biochar in. What that helps is it helps the fungus store moisture. It helps the microbes live and gives them kind of a motel, hotel, Holiday Inn to stay in. And it helps them, just mitigate smell. Carbon's a great buffer. So if you didn't put a 6 inches of biochar at the bottom, that's totally fine. It's the reason it's recommended to put a 6-inch layer of biochar at the bottom is because any moisture, anything that gets through, is stopped by that layer. It provides a great buffer. The microbes will actually create mycelial connections through your wood chips at the top, through the logs, and into the biochar, and manage the water and the moisture and transfer all that stuff in ways that we don't even know. It's like running trillions of micro pipes that they can do all these things. Anything that's toxic in the top layer, they can store safely down there. Anytime they need something that was toxic before, which is just an element out of balance, they can bring it up and use it, so they never run into deficiencies. That's why the more you use biochar on your farm, the more you use it in their animal pens, the better results you're going to get, because a toxin is just something out of balance in the present moment. It doesn't mean it's not a resource for later. So the microbes take that imbalance, store it in the char, and then later when they need it, they can bring it back up and put it back into the things where they need them. So that's the reason for the biochar in all these. And if you didn't add it to the bottom, don't worry, you didn't make a mistake. Just add it to the top, maybe add it more often, and you'll get it there. So Old Smoke is asking, I have access to a bunch of grapes, crates full. How would be the most beneficial way to utilize this for growing medicinal herbs? Anyone who's doing medicinal herbs, if you are able to take a fruit and make a fermented fruit juice, plant juice, I call it all KNF Food. There's not really a difference between, in terms of the just the difference is the amount of sugar you're adding. So take those grapes, add an equal weight of brown sugar, and smash those things. Get all that juice, let it ferment for about a week, then pour that juice off. Now when you add these fruits, what you can do is you add it during the last 3 weeks of coming into before harvest, and you can get different flavors coming through. And what it helps to do is build the plant's secondary metabolites, which are all kinds of terpenes and all kinds of different profiles, those things that make KNF herb different than any other herbs. In that flavor, those things coming through, that's the best way you can utilize it. Sometimes people can get flats of old strawberries, those types of things, old fruits. The one thing about it is that if you're getting store-bought fruit, most likely it has been treated with some sort of antifungal thing, or washed, or like dipped, or some sort of thing. So if you can take a little bit of LAB and rinse your fruits with those first, those will help to eat off any waxes, any contaminants, anything that was put on it at the store by touching, by handling. The more commercial you go with your fruit, the more the contamination levels higher, those types of things. So that's the best thing you can do with those grapes, is turn them into a KNF food and apply them towards the finish. Again, like I was just saying with the flowering, you also want to include vinegar, which is the cleanser, the calcium phosphate, and the medicine. So almost always you use this in a maintenance solution. If you're just applying straight up KNF food, especially in a greenhouse situation, you may cause fungal blooms, but the vinegar and the medicine totally combat that, keep your mildews away. Especially if you're having mildew problem, throw a little bit of the protectors, the lactic acid in there, you won't have those problems, okay? So always KNF isn't about juicing things, bringing them to, like, overloading them with nutrients. It's about balance. It's about giving the plant a relaxed state so that it can express its natural potential. Just like you, if you're stressed out, you have a real hard time performing well. But if you're well fed, you got the resources you need, you're balanced, I hope you naturally want to become more productive and a better citizen. And same is true of the plants, same is true of the microbes. Korean natural farming is all about restoring balance to nature, and in our agricultural systems where we've imbalanced things, we've monocropped, we've removed from the greenhouse or from the nature. So bring those microbes back in, bring that balance, bring those foods back in. In a forest, things fall, start rotting. That's what your plant juices are. That's what that maintenance solution is. It's the balance that you're bringing back in these artificial, more productive, greenhouse-oriented situations. So here it says, Eyewitness is talking about your app talks about storing seawater. Could you elaborate on what would be need to be done to store seawater, fermented seawater? That would be appreciated. Okay, so seawater, I store it in 5-gallon buckets. I go down to the ocean. I'm right next to the Pacific Ocean. If you see the KNF Farm, it's right there. And I store it in 5-gallon buckets. Key is just keep it out of direct sunlight. Just store it in a cool area. If you can, get an underground cistern and store it down there, especially if you're far away from the ocean. Go get like a 275-gallon, go grab a ton of water, bring it to your farm, store that underwater cistern. It's probably enough to run a farm for a year. In my case, I'm drenching it out at the rate of 1 to 30. So I'm using 10 gallons, and I'm doing it on a 275-gallon tote. So I'm using about 10 gallons a week when I drench, and I just run it on a 2-inch pipe out. And maybe I'll do a video on that to show you my setup. All right, someone kicked down in the super chat. Really appreciate it. Keeps me going. And yeah, appreciate it, Old Smoke. Hope this brings your game to the next level. Hope you can put the right flavors in there. Hope you can satisfy whoever's using this product. I really appreciate it. Kind of stuff like that makes it way worth it. But I do it for the love anyway. Back to the seawater. Fermented seawater is a very interesting thing. You're adding a bit of starch and a bit of microbes to the solution. Fermented seawater does not store well. So after you make fermented seawater, use it within 2 to 3 days. Those microbes are living beings. They will eat the oxygen and they will start to choke. However, fermented seawater is really good to use, especially if you get a heat wave. If you get a heat wave come through and all of a sudden your plants are looking like wilted and down, fermented seawater will make them perk right back up. It's those extra microbes, it's the extra minerals, it's that little bit of fermentation that it just is a great stimulant for bringing things back up. And because it always is asked when I talk about seawater, am I going to over salt my land? No. When you dilute 1 to 30, you're actually, it's just giving them minerals. It's not building up, sodium chloride or these other things. It is the same salinity as your blood. It's diluted enough that you're not going to build things up. If you're worried about over salinity, the answer is biochar. The answer is humic acid. The answer is add more organic matter to your soil. So let's see here. Take one more live question. I'm going to jump back to some older questions and then jump back to the live. So last show you talked about the use of maltose. Can you please talk some more about it? In fact, that's a great transition to this. I got a question coming to me about the maltose, and the question I got from Julia was asking if the maltose needed to be sun-dried. And so I wanted to address that to say that, the sun drying helps because it helps to sterilize the thing. The sun has UV light and it helps to kill any other bacterias, other things that may be growing in the maltose. But what it's used as is a growth stimulant. And if you did pull up the maltose recipe and look at it, you would learn a lot about it. Because I got this book in front of me and I want want to just read a little bit from this. This is Master Cho's ancient recipe book that I happen to, it's like, you may find a copy of this online, but I happen to have something of it. And it says, it's also possible to make it from sweet potato and taro for making maltose. And let's see here. What does it say? Okay, so how to use maltose. You dilute it in water 1 to 500. Use it with other natural farming materials. If maltose is applied to a rice paddy field, rice straw can be decomposed rapidly by the action of enzymes. So what maltose is these enzymes that help accelerate composting, especially rice hulls, highly carbonaceous things. And maltose also helps to make soil foundation. So when you're doing soil foundation, you're making things happen. You want to apply soil foundation. Maltose, these enzymes, these things in maltose can be highly used. It can also be used for seedling treatment because maltose is kind of like the sprouted barley. You may have seen sprouted seed tea, as some people say that's a KNF thing, although it's not really, not at least not from Master Cho. I'm not sure if it even comes from Korea, maybe other regions that have developed KNF. But because maltose is sprouted barley, you get those sprouting hormones, those sprouting enzymes in there. So when you add it to your seed soak, it can really be a benefit to do that. And again, the ratio is about 1 to 500. And I think the recipe is I linked to it last week. And again, if you want to find that recipe, let's see here, I'll just show you real quick here on naturalfarminghawaii.net, and then under recipes, under these legacy recipes here, you click on that guy, and it is right down here under maltose. And I'm not going to pull it up right now because we'll see here. But let's see, other things about maltose. It helps for dampening off root rot and soft rot. So again, these enzymes, these hormones that you get from the maltose, you start to water it in. If you're getting, dampening off right when you're transplanting things are dying, it'll help with that. And anytime it has, it says affected by physiological or environmental damage, lower high temperatures in the early growth stage, maltose will help. So for me, I'm transplanting some kava out into the field. I probably should, in my transplant soak, take my kava, soak it into, the SES, or I call it seed solution. It's a lot easier than SES. That's the old vocabulary. But putting a little maltose in there will help. And then the last thing here is, it says in this book, is maltose helps when livestock suffers from loss of appetite. So if for some reason your animals are not eating as much, put some maltose in there. It'll probably help to break those things down, get them going back and bring them back to life. So I was talking a little bit about that earlier. That's something that, there's so much info in KNF, it's hard to keep it all in your mind. Probably should have recommended that to my my friend in the Philippines as well. So a little bit on maltose there for you guys. And let's see here. I was going to pull up a little bit of these older questions here. Let's see. We got, I'll bring this over here. All right. Well, let's see. There was no questions in this, but a lot of people are thankful. That's great. Pulling up the old chat here. So Ronnie from Israel is asking me, they have a commercial deciduous trees, apples, peaches, plums, almonds growing in a very dry and arid desert. And he would like to understand if and how to transform part of the orchards from advanced modern cultivation organic methods to KNF. And let me just say that this is a common question. People are asking, how do I transition from I'm growing, things are good, you're using these things, but there's expenses, there's all kinds of things happening. How do I transition to KNF? the number one easiest way to do it is to go follow the IMO4 recipe, to get your indigenous microbes from your area, from your forest. Get the recipes in the book. I'm not going to cover it right now because I'm assuming there's other resources you can find how to do this. You want to learn more about it, check out my other talks on this. Do make sure you bury the box. So there's some other guys on YouTube that don't show burying the box. They just sit it on the surface. Bury the box just a little bit, capture these things, and then take that, add it to your liquids. If you've already got a spraying program, add that liquid IMO to your spraying program. You're already doing organic teas, you're already doing biodynamics, whatever you got, do it this way. If not, majority of what I recommend is liquid applications. So if you're not already doing something liquid in your conventional and it's all soil based, then you probably have a compost spreader. Take your compost and pour a bunch of your liquid IMO, make a liquid, pour it into your compost. Now take your compost spreader and spread that. Now you're getting these indigenous microbes. If you're already doing conventional, organic, high-tech, modern stuff, you're already doing good things. The only thing you want to start to do is start to integrate these indigenous microbes into your practices. I don't recommend people just all of a sudden try to transition and try to immediately jump over and do something new. Just start to integrate the IMOs into your liquids, the things you're spraying. If you're applying biochar, if you're applying compost, soak these things with the indigenous microbes. Just wet them with these things. Get it over. Get those things in there. That is the way to start transitioning. That is the way to bring these things about. Because you were talking about the desert, I do want to share this website right here, which is, again, the Microbial Secret Society. And if you go to microbialsecret.org, which I think I'll link below in the show notes, check out under micro celebrities, check out Sam Bevins, because he was in Israel asking me about how to grow in the desert, and I did 2 really good episodes with him. One is about, irrigating without water. We talk about how microbes will pull water out of the air for you as you build this thing. We talked about polymorphism, which means taking your microbes and they will adapt to the situation that's there. It's not just like, oh, I have this microbe, it does this job, but actually the microbes themselves, especially as you get diversity, they will adapt and transform to actually fill the niche of what you have. And then we talked about Biochar, which is, germ theory versus terrain theory. So again, episode 32, excellent. Love talking with Sam on this. And then again here, the first time I had him on the show, episode 24, we were talking about, desert KNF. How do you farm in the desert? How do you do this? And how do you farm without water? Again, these ideas, he's talking about organic, hydroaeroponics versus regenerative agriculture, and how all these things come together. So if you want to check those out, they're there. Awesome, easy. I've done a lot of talking on that and love those resources. So let's see here. I got a couple more questions that I want to get to. I'm almost at the end of the hour here, but I'll give you guys a little bit of bonus here just to finish up these questions from last week so that I'm on time and on delivery here. And this question was from Irma, and she's asking, this one I really wanted to get to. And she was talking about Dr. Elaine Ingham's work and her opinions of KNF. And, she's always kind of poo-pooed KNF. And in 2012, when she came here, I was able to sit down with her during the lunch breaks. It was a very small class, about 20 of us. If you want to check it out, it is on my YouTube. It's called Elaine Ingham Common Ground 2012. And it's all 28 or 30 hours of her lecture out there. But she kind of, I've heard from other people that she was kind of poo-pooing natural farming, like as if it's a bunch of people rolling rice balls through the forest trying to catch IMO. And she always recommends that instead of using rice, you use barley. which you can use a bunch of different medias to collect your IMO. But she's saying here that, IMOs are always growing anaerobic biology and pathogens are mostly anaerobic and should be avoided. That itself is a fallacy. That if you go and look under the microscope, Korean natural farming, the process that's outlined by Master Han-Kyu Cho, actually collects a fractal of what's in your forest and what's there. Elaine kind of leaves you a bit short when she just says make good compost, which means aerobic, hits certain temperatures, does certain things, breaks down material. I'm not going to say that it's not a good way to do it, but we did do a trial on Maui, Elaine versus KNF. So the soil food web methods of good compost. The soil food web guys with the compost showed up with a tomato trial, showed up with 2 dump trucks of compost. They applied it, it worked well. The Korean natural farmers showed up with a minivan with a few inputs in the back, meaning a few solutions. We had the microbes plus the soil solution. So that's, the plant juice and all those things outlined in the book. And we applied the things. After, I think, a month into the trial, over a long weekend, the irrigation got cut. The soil food web compost ones fell down. The KNF natural farming ones fell down. The people running the trial panicked. They called Master Cho's daughter on the phone. They said, what do we do? She said, turn the irrigation back on. We turned the irrigation back on. The Korean natural farming plants stood back up. The compost plants stayed down. So if you're going to take that to be like, that's super hand wavy, super anecdotal. I don't even have a video. I don't even have pictures. It's almost a story and legend now. But do the trials yourself. Take Korean natural farming versus organic methods and try them. And if you go look at the video on my YouTube, it's called Korean Natural Farming Documentary. It's a clip from the movie In Search of Balance. And Dr. Kun Hui Wei, who just released another paper on Korean natural farming, talked about how Korean natural farming made the soil about 24 inches in terms of its soil compression test. Organic methods made it about 8 inches, and the conventional had about 3 inches or something. And so when you talk about what can Korean natural farming do, when you do it properly, it's beyond just composting. And there are ways to make compost, like I was saying earlier, by integrating these IMOs into your recipe. So, Elaine's super scientific. She's all about the microscope. I suggest you go that route. I don't want to be a hater on Elaine. She's a friend of mine. But the proof is in the pudding. You can argue methods all day. You can argue anything you want, but the end of the day, it's which worked in the field, which was better. And so, I'd love to have Elaine study this better. She's one of the preeminent scientists in the soil food web. She's a legend in her own right. She's a great person. Her info is great. When I took her class, she gave me this huge booklet with all her slides in here, detailing everything you need to know. She taught me how to evaluate soil biology. I owe it to her for the microscope. She also has this book out, the Soil Biology Primer, which teaches you all. It's a very short book, but it teaches you all about the different types of, arthropods and all these different things of what, you want to get to know the soil fungi. There's so many great resources. So I want to be positive, supportive of her. Like attracts like. I want to talk good about her. I'd love if she talked great about us. And I think that there's no reason to fight in the realm of regenerative agriculture. We're all doing our part to build better soil. We're all doing our part to use the resources around us. And, this is where we need to come together and to understand all this stuff scientifically, not just this hand waving, but again, the proof is in the pudding. Okay, so got 3 more questions, and then I'll answer the last live questions next time. I know I'm 4 minutes over already, which is great. I mean, I enjoy my Sunday mornings doing this, ranting. You can see, maybe you saw Sue's earlier bring me some food. I almost feel like I'm getting over talking too much. Time for some OHN, restore my health. But okay, so I got a guy from Mau Camacho who sent me an email from Indonesia. Shout out to Indonesia, and all the great people working out there. So he has 3 questions, which is, he produces forest using a Japanese technique that involves digging out a meter of soil and mixing it with amendments. This is to accelerate the conversion of crappy soil into forest soil. I have been using Jadam microbe solution as my microbial solution to great success. Awesome, good choice, especially in a low budget situation. It's probably going to be one of the easiest ways to get microbes. But he's been wanting to use KNF microbes, which I recommend, because JMS, the Jadam microbe solution, while good, is not actually the soil microbes. They're more of prebiotics than the probiotics. The KNF microbes are probiotics. So, but my book says not to bury the KNF microbes. So he's concerned that he would be spreading it under a meter underground. So he wanted to seek my wisdom on the best way to conduct an experiment to give the little guys a best chance to do their thing. So what you're talking about, digging out a meter of soil, it sounds intensely, really energy intensive to dig up a meter of soil, mix in amendments, and then rebury this. What I recommend is you do the stuff in situ, that you spread the KNF microbes on the top, that you water them down. It may seem like you are getting a benefit and a boost in your initial, if I dig a hole and I plant things in the first, and I amend it with all kinds of things, what happens is those plant roots grow out here, and they're in this, Master Cho calls it like spoiling your children. Your forest will grow, they'll reach there, they'll get all this great growth, but as soon as they hit the edges of where you've amended, those roots are spoiled and rich, and they're not used to penetrating out beyond that. So often what will happen is you'll get great growth for the first year, maybe the first 3 years, but ultimately after about 3 years, 5 years in, that forest will get disease, because what happens is those roots start to reach out, they hit the walls, there's no nutrients beyond that. They're not used to reaching into poor subsoil. They're not used to reaching beyond that. And then they start to fold in on themselves, just like you're growing in a pot and you get, root tangles. They start growing in and they don't reach out. And at that point, your forest starts to die. So what looked like this immediate success because you put so much time and energy into it, in the long run is actually detrimental. It's just like raising spoiled children. They look great at first, but then you put them out on their own and they're like, why isn't mommy and daddy still giving me money? They have to make it in a hard knocks, and life is not as easy as that is. So not to say, I don't want you to change your, technique too radically, but try and experiment. And the hard part about this is it's going to take a few years to see this result, to see this change. But I really recommend just using the technique I did last time. Like when you go to plant the tree, instead of digging a pit and trying to amend a meter of soil, just dig a shallow cone about 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters deep. That's a cone. Put your tree in the center of that cone. It'll then reach out, then amend right around the top of that thing, so that the roots are encouraged to reach out, continue to amend out. The roots will reach. This way you're not raising spoiled trees that are just always looking for these amendments. It'll be less time, less energy, and that type of experiment I really recommend. And you look over it at the long term. It's because if you're doing a forest, it's not about today. It's not about next year. It's about the next 7 generations. It's how is that forest going to be years from now? Are we able to sustainably harvest the timber? Where are we going with this? So, you may get great results with this current technique, but if you want long-term results, I recommend doing that. Also taking a bit of biochar and putting it on the surface, big chunks, like fist-sized chunks. Put 2 or 3 of those around each tree. The microbes will store excess moisture there, store excess nutrients, bring that in when it needs it. You'll get great results. But again, I don't want you to change your whole process right away. Give it an experiment, give it a try. I guarantee you'll see guarantee, yeah, um, that it'll work better. That's the natural process. That's the way to build strong, robust trees. And so his second question, is there a difference between the power and effectiveness between IMO4 and liquid IMO? The answer is yes. IMO4 is a solid amendment that you'd put around the areas to amend. Liquid IMO is something liquid that you'd spray. When you are growing to make liquid IMO, you're usually taking either IMO2, which I call seed IMO, or IMO4, which I call activated IMO, and you're bubbling those things. The bubbling process is changing the microbes to live in a very convenient, easy relationship. It's also taking them from soil-based, moving them to hydro-based, and then putting them back soil-based. So the benefits of liquid IMO: it's easy to make. If you're already liquid-oriented, it's easy to spread. It's easy to spray. You can get it up into your canopy. That's always, you can get that microbial protection directly into your canopy. It's also sometimes cheaper because I can take 1 5-gallon bucket of IMO, which for me treats, what is that, like? It's 4 pounds per 100 square feet. So, and I think a bucket weighs about 30 pounds. So that's, I don't know. I don't want to do math live and have a mistake here. And it's sad that we can't do the mental math today, a further sign of our degraded society. But that'll make thousands of gallons of liquid IMO. So you can take what would have been just treating a few 100 square feet and change it into treating, acres. And you deploy it out at about 25 gallons to 100 gallons per acre, depending on your dose and how deep you want it to get in there. And you can treat, like 1,000 gallons will treat, I don't know, lots, like 25 acres or something. I don't trust my math live. Do the math. I have, I usually rely on spreadsheets, which I think is why lazy mental math. Sorry, but so there is a difference between them. If you can make it, I recommend making IMO4 to spread it around in a donut shape around each tree. You're going to get those soil microbes, and then watering and soaking them with liquid amendments so that those microbes will establish themselves even better. So IMO4 is going to be more powerful, but liquid IMO is often more convenient. So depends on your time, energy, machines, everything you have on what you're going to do. Okay. Third and final question here. Thanks for hanging in there. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning into the office hour. Maybe I should call it the office hour in 15 minutes. So he asks, we are also starting tree sapling nursery. I've seen a tiny bit of KNF about seed soaking solution, but would like to know more, as well as if there are any KNF recommendations to nursery related things such as growing medium. Lastly, at what stage of the tree growth can I begin to apply KNF solutions? So, compound question here is a trick question, 3 questions in the last question. So nurseries, these things, using liquid IMO when you're watering, huge benefit. Seed soaking solution, huge benefit. The benefit to the seed soaking solution is you are, like, oftentimes our seeds are older, they're out. There's actually microbes in the seed, inside there. So if that's missing because you took it from a disease thing, or you took it for something you're using fungicides, pesticides, herbicides on, it's going to have less. So if you take those seeds, soak them in this new microbial solution, these nutrients, now it absorbs that into the seed. Now you sow it, the leaves get bigger. Your first dicotyledons are twice as big. And that really helps. Another thing in a nursery situation is disease can sometimes be rampant because you're putting these things out. So put in the protectors, KNF protectors, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 700 if you're really having troubles. And those are, I used to call them emergency workers. And when you have new nursery things, they're emergent. They're doubling their leaf size hugely. That will help you. A little bit of KNF Fuel. So to go back to the protectors, they're in that area. They protect it. They keep those leaves from getting disease when there's rapid growth happening. Other thing, a little bit of KNF Fuel into your mix following the leaf growth solution helps your plants grow when they're early stage growing. Lots of DNA replicating. Those amino acids help your plant grow. And for a medium, this is the one place where you can mix in whatever medium you have and include about 10% of that with IMO4. And I know I said not to bury it, but in a small pot where you have something, that IMO is not buried enough where it's cut off from oxygen, especially since most potting mediums are, have perlite. You're encouraging it to have airflow, all those things. So do mix it into your potting medium a little bit. It's not the same as burying it meters deep. It's not the same as putting it out into your soil, burying it. In a nursery situation, 10% IMO4. This is directly for Master Cho when he was in Popaico. There was this exact question asked, what should we use as a growing medium? And this is what he recommended. So it's straight from my master's mouth. And lastly, at what stage would I use KNF? I would use it in all stages. Mixing the right mix for the right stage, understanding the growth cycles, understanding the nutrient cycle is super convenient, and all of that. And yeah, so I would always use it, and also don't forget to use it yourself, to drink fermented plant juice, to drink those vinegars, to drink those OHNs. Now you're going to be stronger. You're going to go out to your nursery. You're going to be pumped. You're going to get microbes the whole way through. If you grow a beard, you're going to be shedding indigenous microbes everywhere. This is the beauty of what we're doing. You can fully super saturate yourself in it. And so before I sign off here, I know I've been talking a lot because my voice is a little bit sore even. I've been such a hermit on the farm this year. But he has this crazy idea of making it out to the farm. Let me tell you, it is not crazy. If you can make it here to Hawaii and you can spend this week, it will change your life. You will get these downloads. My mom always talks about this, like where there's a transmission from teacher to student, and you can watch YouTubes all day. You can get these things all day. But if you're here, you're in the presence, there's a mana, there's an energy, there's something that is transferred between us. There's a remembrance, there's something that happens. So it's by no means is it a crazy idea. It's still possible to travel. Come out, do it while you can. Stay here. It's beautiful. It's relaxing. You will leave so energized, so pumped up, so ready for what you're going to get into. And so he's saying, he doesn't have a farm yet. Get into it here. Learn about it. If you're here to learn, it's better. And my instruction course is only done in person. There's a mana, like I said, that transition. And it's all part of it. I teach level 1, 2, 3, plus the animals, plus some of the Jadam microbe solutions I was talking about, plus pesticides, plus soap, plus you get to eat the great food here, plus you get to see how it's done. All these things, it's all inclusive, plus you get to stay in these beautiful cottages, or for a little bit more affordable, you get to camp here on the land with access to a hot shower in our kitchen. All those things. KNFfarm.com. Thanks for tuning into this whole thing. And never be sorry about sending me a huge email. Please send it to me. Give me, all your success stories, those things. Love to see what you got going. And, helping through this way, remote consulting, whatever I'm doing, it's my heart to return back to the original reading. It's this this wooing, this influence that's coming. It's this natural farming. We're on the cusp of changing the world, of stabilizing the climate, of providing for people that need these resources: clean food, clean land, clean air, clean water, clean ocean. All those things that I know I love, and you probably, if you stay this long on this thing, you love too. So be part of the solution. Become a certified instructor. If you're not a certified instructor, teach what you know. Always be open to criticism, revisions. Stay humble. I try to do as best as I can. I always try to listen. But send me that info. You want to reach out via email, that's great. you know, it's listed on knffarm.com. My email's listed on the contact page there. I would just give it to you, but it's better you check that out, see what's going on, see what you're going to get into. And appreciate the donations today. All that helps me keep this going. And as always, I just want to say, you know, long live the natural farmer. Thanks for tuning in, and I love you.